Hello there folks, this is Ferenc on board again. This is a video in which I will discuss again about the coronavirus, or the cunt virus as I call it, because people have been lately, freaking out about this. They've been, you know, so much living in panic and the such that, it kind of makes me wonder a bit. It's like, are we actually faced with, a pandemic of a so-called virus, or actually it's a pandemic of panic? Because I see more panicked people rather than, you know, um, people actually suffering from the so-called coronavirus. Now I'm gonna dive into the details more like quickly, as I want to always be like this. I'm not interested in beating the bush too much. I prefer over delivering, so that's why I prefer having longer videos at times, even if I want them short. So the point about this is very extremely simple. The coronavirus is nothing more than a representative of our narcissism as a race. We have become a highly narcissistic society, even if we don't want to admit. Especially a concept that I heard spoken by someone, it's called electronic narcissism. It's like social, in a way, electronic social narcissism, like social media narcissism, right? Everyone wants to show their perfect lives, everyone wants the most likes, everyone wants to be the best. Everyone is in this rush towards literally nothing, because what's the point of having so many likes? What's the point of having so many pictures? You're just a vampire, okay? And what you put out is indeed what you actually get. When these people actually post so many of these fake pictures, what they put out is a vibration of fakeness, so they will draw in other such people, because people who are busy developing themselves, and I'll also get into this later, the point is they won't have the time for that. Like, okay, yeah, I see your life is theoretically perfect, but I don't know you in real life, so I won't even bother even the slightest second to actually watch your profile, because I don't know you, and unless we can actually have a deeper conversation, there will be no trigger in me. I will simply disregard that because it does not uh, represent my objectives. I know that I have to accomplish certain things in life, and there is really not that much time for that. Most of these things in this society are only meant as a distraction, okay? Anyways, so all this narcissism kind of reminds of the pendulum effect that I've been speaking about in the previous video of mine. And the pendulum effect, in short, is whatever you create, whatever you think of, is actually a creation. Now this creation acts as kind of a black hole in a way, because if you put it out like many streamers do, for example, it kind of becomes full with all the ideas that other people think of those. And it's also impregnated with the emotions that you put out when you reveal those things. That is why you can see that whatever the type of content a certain YouTuber, let's say, puts out, they will be surrounded by likewise people. If someone puts out a lot of hatred, they will be accompanied by a lot of hateful people, because vibration attracts the like. Vibration attracts similar vibration. If you put a lot of positivity out, you'll see that the people there are usually positive, and they will be overwhelmed. The negative ones will usually be overwhelmed, and putting out positivity will also draw positivity from other people. Now you also have to be very strong, spiritually speaking. In a way, you have to know yourself, because if you put out the slightest signs of worry, you're also gonna attract worrying from other people. And worrying is a powerful attractor, just like fear. And it also has numerous physical effects. It can actually block your, not necessarily block, but it can disable temporarily at least your immunitary system. And it's not about the coronavirus, but usually you don't want your immunitary system to be affected in any sort or way, okay? Like the air is more polluted nowadays, the water is somewhat polluted. Like literally nothing in this world is like uh, interactable, so to speak. So the point is, it's like whatever you do, things aren't necessarily good. And I'm not worrying about the cunt virus, because honestly, I don't know if it actually can do something to me anyways. Some people would probably consider me mad for this. Like I've seen so many people is like, oh, so you consider yourself above the coronavirus, right? It's you're kind of crazy, aren't you? Now this virus reminds me of one thing, and I've been delaying this video for a while now, and I kind of wish I didn't, but I don't have any regrets because I don't like building regrets. The video is gonna be called "The First Line Will Perish," and this is not gonna be called so for nothing. Okay, so this virus is a reminder of the karmic debt that we have built as a race because we have been straying ourselves from humanity so long. There are so many humans, well, they look like humans, but they definitely aren't of human origin, and they are doing so many things to destroy everything, like literally everything. They don't have any sense of empathy. They're destroying the rainforest. They're killing, actually mass butchering animals. They're doing so many horrible things. So the point is, we have gained such an immense karmic debt, and this has to actually be paid because history says that there have been mass extinctions, and probably you, the more religious folks, from the Bible, the great purge, let's say, when the great waters came and flooded everything, and it's the Noah's Ark event, and this coronavirus kind of is something similar, but do not worry, the numbers are extremely savage in a way. I mean, the numbers are extremely augmented. Now, judging by some sources, it's like 15,000 people have died in, let's say, a month and a bit. Okay, so 15,000 people for a disease, 15,000 lives claimed. This is definitely like some kind of bullshit because the panic was started ever since there were 6 Chinese who were infected. Okay, 6 Chinese people died from the virus. Now China dealt very quickly with the coronavirus, and the point is they're actually making great progress. The Kant virus actually made them very popular, and they actually gained a lot of they actually gained a lot of positive views in a way. Now, I don't know where these laboratories of Wuhan actually exist. Is that actually from China? Because they're somehow connected to this virus. Okay, I'm not gonna spoil too many things. One thing I can say is that the authors who made the Kant virus will be brought to justice sooner or later because it's the will of the universe. They cannot hide forever. Okay, it most likely all has been planned, as I'm sure of it. Like, there is the quote maktub, it had been written. Everything was written, so even if it won't unfold one way, it will another way because it's made to unfold, it's made to come to be revealed, and we are entering the age of Aquarius, so everything like this will sooner or later come to justice. It will come to light in a way. Now, the point about the coronavirus, I knew it from the beginning. I said, well, this is definitely a blow. I initially took it as a blow against China because, they're kind of becoming too popular. Okay, they are kind of becoming too financially strong, and you don't want someone who's, controlling even 90% of the world economy and trade. Especially, you don't want them to also have a good grasp of economy because they might actually become the next financial authoritarian. I don't know what their agendas are, but considering that in their history they still hold the moment of the opium wars, you should read about this, as a humiliation to them. I don't think their agendas would actually be that good anyways. Now, the coronavirus is a reminder that we have become overly narcissistic. We don't take care of anything. And yes, even you who sit at home and do whatever you do, your ignorance is still a problem because you're not doing anything. People's not doing anything. This is kind of a problem because ignorance is the greatest enemy of all. Ignorance is the greatest destructor of all because through ignorance you create literally everything else. You create poverty, you create stupidity as a result, and poverty and stupidity kind of give birth to some of the most problematic minds. Now, the coronavirus isn't a big threat. Like, let's be honest, 15,000 lives claimed in a month and a bit, compared to some of the most, like horrendous diseases out there, okay, it's not that much of a problem. Thinking at how many lives diabetes claims per month, okay, or other such heavy diseases, right, heavyweight diseases, point out, okay. This is something that, the coronavirus is also a sign, spiritually speaking, that we don't use our voices, okay. It is affecting our lungs for a reason, okay. It is affecting the area of our lungs which are somewhat around the area of our heart, okay, the heart chakra in a way, which shows that we don't love ourselves enough, and we as a result don't love nature as well. And also it affects our respiratory system, which is also represented by our vishuddhi and our voice. We're way too silent when we should be actually fighting for the rights of nature. Actually, nature shouldn't even have any rights. Every living being has the right to live, and if there are apathic beings on this planet, it's not that they shouldn't be allowed to live either, but their power should not be given that much. They shouldn't be given that much power to decide who lives and who does not live. Of course, we shouldn't be looking at these beings as negative, because they're also part of the play, okay. They have been doing such a wonderful job, okay, like they have been secretly guiding humanity through whatever we as a race needed to expand our consciousness of this lower vibrational realm. Because as I've been saying, we as spirits haven't been coming to these lower vibrational realms to experience bliss and happiness only. I mean, yes, that should be the ultimate prize, but more importantly, it is greatly important to experience the lower vibrations, because we come from already highly vibrant realms, right? So I mean, what's the point of feeling only a fraction of the happiness that can be felt in those realms, right? We come here to experience most of the negativities, because that's usually what attracts us. I mean, even when you look at movies and when you look at video games, it's natural of us to be more drawn towards the crime part. Is there a crime in there? Is there a sex scene? Is there something somewhat more carnal, more lower vibrational? Because that's our natural tendency. We are drawn by that, and I'm actually fighting to help people realize that these are not bad things. These are just natural things. They only become bad when they become detrimental to other people, or when you actually use these as a drug, mainly as something that would distract you from more important things. Now, I want and I will always keep diving into psychology and psychiatry. I'm not gonna read too much about that, because that means getting infected in a way by other people's ideas, and I'm interested in exploring my own reality, my own truth. That is why I'll also remind people that, hey, you know what? These are my ideas, these are felt by me, they were also sent to me by, my guides as well, because I'm experiencing my own reality. And I want my reality to be a beacon to others, not a standard. Okay, I'm interested in making my point understood to people, allow them to see that there are multiple possible ways, but not take them for granted. Okay, just like people have made with religions. There's definitely an entity or a set of entities that have made all this possible, but let's not make this a fuss. Okay, let's not turn this into a life hobby. Okay, because it shows how compliant people can actually be, believing that, easily giving all their power, right, and making it so that, okay, everyone gets their power, they are powerless, and they kind of like this because in a way they invite other people to solve their problems. If you meet people who are like, okay, I'm powerless, I'm useless, all they want is you to actually solve their problems. It's some of narcissists tactics, but not only narcissistic people's tactics. It can be, people who have very powerful attachments. There is also an attachment based disorder. I think there's probably several of those. And this, like codependency syndrome or something like that. Okay, such people usually recur to the puppy eyes, They invite you in their life, they're so shiny, they're so happy, but all they want is you to fix their problems because they won't take the responsibility for that. If people can't take a responsibility, they're definitely out of my radar. I mean, I will keep an eye on such people and on such aspects because it is important to notice them. It is critical to notice them in order to learn how to socialize with people. Once you learn how to deal with some of the deeper aspects, of our core existence and our extended existences as well, socializing is not much of a problem. Because once you can feel certain things regarding people, it's like, okay, I can't fail. I'm thinking some things are off, awkward about this person, but you shouldn't be put off about that. Okay, some people have some bad points. Okay, you have to also find a bit about their background. There's a lot of research that has to go around each and every individual. So first of all, you have to ask yourself, why am I gonna um, discuss with this person? But socializing probably in another video. Now, the Kant virus is a reminder that we are kind of becoming way too narcissistic. We're disregarding a lot of things regarding nature, yes, and we're also inhibiting our voices. We're keeping everything in because we are afraid, and we don't want to take responsibility. It's one of the signs. And it has been written. There will be people who will perish from this coronavirus because through their pains and perishing, they will pay some of the karmic debt that humanity has accumulated throughout their history and throughout the days of today. And this line of people are actually what I call the first lines of heroes. They are the heroes who agreed to live, and most likely they have lived miserable lives that prepared them for a state that would be compatible for the coronavirus to, make them perish and, experience some pains through which they will burn through some of the karmic debt of humanity. And, this karmic debt of humanity being very big, you have to expect a huge number of people to die. Now, if you're not capable to understand this, I wouldn't recommend you to look at my channel that much, because I don't want people to look at my channel, and I don't want people to actually give me likes, okay, and subscribes. I'm not necessarily interested in these. I wouldn't mind though. Probably it would make my channel a bit more, open and easily accessible to others. But I know that I will be attracting the right people at the right time. Slowly and surely I will. I'm not interested in necessarily followers if they are not able of seeing things at the deeper sides. Okay, like I'm interested in highly introspective people, and I'm not exclusive. Okay, like I don't want that kind of people only, but I'm interested in people who want to become more introspective, who finally start to realize that this coronavirus is more about seclusion. Okay, we finally have the chance to stay in seclusion, and any pain and anger that we feel also helps burn some of the karma we have created as humans. So you're doing a lot of work that you simply don't know about. Okay, you're not conscious about. You're doing a lot of work, you're doing a lot of cleansing in the name of society. Now, what this means is that we as people will have to live indoors. Okay, everything that we experience goes into the collective consciousness, and there it's where all the ideas will be shaped, and through that, the more people experience a certain state, the more proeminent that state will be to all other people who are not aware yet. So let me give you an example. When the premises were built for consumerism, okay, and let's actually start with early 20th century in America, when the foundations were placed for corporatism, right, for mega corporations to start thriving. The point was with these that they were based on this still existent typical salesmanship tactics, of always grabbing the money. They don't care about people, right? Because it's a sense of apathy. They don't give a damn about you, they don't care about you, they just want to get your money. And so many years of peace have allowed these ideas to proliferate, to study psychology more and more, because what I see psychology mostly used for is how to break the mind, okay, It's not interested in helping people become more introspective, but more like how we can actually break the apparently inexistent limitations of defenses of the mind. Okay, the mind itself, the human mind, not the overmind, right? The psyche, the greater aspects of a person, because many people just limit themselves to this body, which is kind of 1% of their whole existence, and existence as a whole, probably even less. So it was all about fooling people, okay? So this was also important because the more people got fooled, that sense of having been fooled was experienced by the collective consciousness, okay? It went into the collective Akashic records. And as it went there, each and every person's suffering actually helped in the raising of the vibration and raising of the awareness of the others individuals, right? Some people were born, and the younger and younger generations were more and more aware of this, okay? So the first generation took it very hard, okay? Like they went into multiple level marketing, right? MLMs, and they worked their asses hard for a bit of money, because there were those very charming people who would say quotes like after the first investment it's just profit, or stuff like that. And many people would believe this because everyone wants to live rich, and it's a exploit that everyone also wants to do it fast. No one wants to do the hard work, but they all want the medal. So exploiting this was necessary, beyond the big picture, okay, beyond the scenes. This was necessary to point to humanity as a whole, because it's an aspect that higher vibrational beings probably know of, but they have to explore it here at a lower vibration. How it feels like to be fooled, how it is like to be the one who fools others, right? And it also helps the awareness of us as humans, as 3D beings, okay? Because at the level of our 3D consciousness, this was something that we had to be, made aware of. And throughout the history of our existence, especially in Europe, there has been a lot of silence, and everything regarding the truth was kind of put out, because it was the age of Pisces, I think, which was all about belief. And belief means accepting something without the necessity for proof. That's why many people say they believe in God. They believe in God, and the Bible is their only proof. Now you see, to simple people and especially to illiterate people, imagination is actually quite dangerous, okay? If you speak about angels to let's say people who are very cerebral like me, they will start actually doubting a lot of things, and questioning a lot of things, like how come they actually have wings, how do those wings grow, like how do they fly, do they actually flap their wings, how do they actually fly in the first place, right? Do they levitate? Is it some kind of mental technology? Do they actually bypass magnetism and gravitational pulls? How do they actually do that, right? But when you speak about such things to illiterate people, they can already imagine them in the in their mind. They can already see them in the sparkles, in the beauty of their existence, right? They shape them in their own way. And when you present something that's different, well, to an illiterate person, you present something that's different than their perceptions up till then, you also give them an instant sensation that they are suddenly far better, they are suddenly enlightened, okay? So they will actually start as if they know everything, right? And they are now some kind of preachers of God already. And I think you can already see this like literally everywhere. It's like, dude, stop lying me about your false gods. If you take any number of these so-called believers of God, they're actually breaking the second rule of so-called Christianity, because they're actually creating their own gods. They're actually creating their own gods themselves, and they also tend to be a bit narcissistic, even more, because they create their own reality based on the god that they invent, and they will use that god against their children and people, any kind of person, right, to justify their means. Like, there are many people who do this. There are many non-governmental organizations on this, right? And not only on religion, like save animals' rights, and all these things. They usually place themselves on the principle that they give people a purpose in life, and that's a very dangerous thing because very simple people are easy to drive. Once you give them the sensation that they're doing something good in their life, that's how you actually rule people with actually a very great ease. The coronavirus is a reminder of these, okay? And now that people are finally put into lockdown, there are a lot of things that happen in the background, and I'm not gonna spoil you about these. There's a kind of a new world order that's going to come into place, and no, it's not gonna be something bad necessarily. I don't have yet any visions on this. I saw what other people said, so I thought why not also share it with some other people. Maybe they'd get to see some of my videos as well. And there were people who actually made predictions about this year, and they were actually right. So that's one of the reasons why I'm watching them, because they have this sense of foretelling certain things. And if they are right once, well, that's a thing. But if they are constantly right, well, there's something about those people, and I feel that I should be watching them instead of wasting my time on social medias, right? And especially on the news. Like, I don't have time for that. Literally, I don't have time for that, and even if I had, I wouldn't spend it that way. You see, so now that you are in house, okay, you're in quarantine, people will start losing their jobs, so there's a lot of pain, right? A lot of karmic debt is being burned through. You have a lot of ways, you have a lot of time now to think that your whole life was a whole shit, it was a whole lie, because you are taught to just work for someone, and that's basically it. When you work for someone, you don't work for yourself. It's important to make the money, but it's also important to create some skills that you can actually leverage income from and turn those skills into a lifestyle, just like I want to do with game development. It's also something that I will call the apocalypse of simple folks, of simpletons, because nowadays what most companies will do, they will replace a lot of people with AI. During this crisis, or especially after, this will actually happen, because you cannot trust people anymore. And what I will predict you based on our psychology is actually very easy. Even if this virus will cease tomorrow, people will still fear other people, because finally they are kind of aware that you can actually take diseases from others. It's like, dude, according to science, not necessarily reality, okay? According to science, humanity required 163,000 years, to reach this moment, okay? I bet there's far more than this, but let's get to science-based facts, okay? Like, I don't trust science anymore, but okay. So, well, except some cases. So, humanity required to create cinematography, right? To finally discover that, hey, you know what? Women actually look better, and women actually look good, okay? And it's like cinematography was one of the first parts that actually started using humans, not only women, as objects. Because as an actor, you're not only making an object of yourself because you're basically a liar. I mean, you're faking something, so you're technically a liar, okay? And you're becoming better and better at that. And you're also lying yourself that you're good. So I don't know, there's something about actorhood or being an actor that I kind of, in a way, don't like. Okay, but I don't mind it, okay? I don't mind it, and I won't judge it. That's just a personal opinion. Judging is usually when you become aggressive towards that, and I'm definitely not looking to become aggressive towards this. So the point is, now in these days, humanity needed 163,000 years to finally have revolutionized the washing your hands. It's like, really? Like, this is something that should be like basic knowledge, okay? Like basic practice to wash your hands, okay? Like, you don't need a mass epidemic to actually wash your hands. And it's like, why the fuck do you even need to wash your hands? I mean, yeah, sure, you could take the virus on your hands, but it's not that you're gonna rub your nose like each and every second of the day and of your life, okay? So this is a wake-up call, okay? This is a wake-up call like the 1111 you're seeing at the right of my screen, which also drew my attention because it's a sign that I'm also seeing from time to time. And yes, I'm awakening to my full potential, just like everyone is, but at their own pace. And the coronavirus reminds us that there will be this apocalypse of dummies, okay? People who will not take this period of time as, a means to become introspective, people who do not keep money for themselves, right? And, you know, um, develop their develop themselves, develop some extra skills they can leverage income from, that's gonna be bad news for them. Because AI will gonna take over humans, because AI is more expensive to only implement, but it's fairly cheap to support, and you need high quality people to support it. You need high quality technicians to know what they're gonna do. You need high quality automaticians, or whatever they're called in English, okay, programmers, to solve, automation problems. And you also need a lot of physics, okay? You need mechanics, okay? And I would say primarily physics would be good to be taught more extensively in schools, because we are becoming a technological race. We are actually a technological race. So programming especially has to be taught in schools, because we are going to use it more and more. The point with machines taking the place of humans is actually it was highly needed. People need to get away from this mentality that all they need to do is learn a fucking school and then get a job, and hopefully they die happy. You won't die happy from a job. 90% of people are told in worldwide statistics that they hate their job. Don't lie yourselves. It's just one of the most pathetic things to say that you like your job. Sure, there are situations where you can actually like your job if you're working on something that's also improving you, but most of the people actually work the job for the money. And I come from a country where salaries, especially outside the capital and the richer towns, richer cities, in my hometown the salaries are around 300 to 400 bucks, okay? So if you're from one of the richer countries, 3 to 400 bucks is most likely nothing to you. But seeing that some people are working almost as much as you, or probably even more than you, to get only that much, okay? And I come from the Eastern Europe, okay, the Romanian side, which is Central Eastern Europe, and I come from the southeastern part of Romania, which is the poorest part of Romania. So honestly, one of the points that this coronavirus will lead to is a fall of the European Union, because basically now there is no such thing as European Union. There still exists as, in people's consciousness, but every country has turned towards itself. In terms of crisis, everyone becomes somewhat narcissistic, because you're the only important one, everything else is just a resource to be used, including people, animals, and whatever else. Okay? So every country is kind of for itself. That's kind of it. And European Union kind of always has been like this, especially the Western Europe. They kind of didn't care about the Eastern Europe, and we were kind of the milked nations. When the communist regime fell, the power that we had in industry and agriculture got repelled by the European Unions. There were rules against this, okay? Our army is controlled by the European Union. Our resources have been freely given by the ignorance of our people, and the constitution is also ruled by outside countries and outside powers like the European Union. So the point is, if your army and your constitution are controlled from the outside, you basically don't exist. And that's something that I want to remind people. Romania is a colony. It's no longer a country. It's not been a country for almost 30 years now. Now, the point that I want to say about this coronavirus is that a lot of changes are going to take place, okay? America will most likely suffer a fall. Their dollar is apparently increasing in value, but on the long run will actually start falling. There have been a lot of people that have been sent away from their jobs, and it is simply because you can't trust people anymore. And you actually don't need the coronavirus to pinpoint that. Even when I move outside, when I go outside and buy things, I just see people all around, they back away from me as if I'm already some kind of infected monster, okay? Like, I know as a guy I have very long hair, probably, I don't know. It's like, they've been making a lot of propagandas that having long hair is definitely not good because it can actually store the cunt virus. Is like, really now? Are you that retarded to actually believe this? It's like, dudes, really? They don't exist that much outside of hosts. They actually need hosts, and if they don't have hosts, at least in humidity. And if a virus would actually get on a drop of water on your hair, is like, let's face it, chances are that water will evaporate, and most likely that virus will also die as well. Or I don't know, they'll probably enter a kissed form. They will probably move away from your hair because the wind might actually blow it away from your hair. I mean, there are so many physical aspects like the winds, humidity, and all sorts of things, chemistry, that people simply don't take into account because their minds are too simple. My mind is highly intricate, so these things are something that, I always think of those. I don't even think of those, they're natural to me. If I find a certain situation, these are things that spawn questions about them. It's like, how about the humidity? How about the wind? How about the wind direction? All sorts of ideas. These come to my mind because I'm introspective enough. And I'm becoming actually more and more. What you can do in these times of quarantine is that, start learning about yourself, start seeing what things don't work in your life. Don't worry about the people that will die, okay? If you, before incarnating here, you chose for that to happen, don't be afraid because sooner or later it will actually happen. And why worry about death anyways? Because let's face it, we all are gonna die anyways. We are all gonna die sooner or later. And yes, this is the greatest fear of narcissists. Well, that's how they work. It doesn't concern me anyways. So the point is, life and death are things that happen at the same time, and I would actually advise you to watch some gurus on this, or I will probably speak about this in other videos, okay? Now, yes, indeed, a lot of people will still die. As of what I've seen from some, shadier, statistics, the numbers are starting to kind of dwindle. Now, if this virus is definitely a human experiment, I'm actually expecting the second wave of this virus, the super virus, which should be hitting anytime soon, I'd say. And after it, it will actually fade. The purpose of a virus is that it doesn't want to kill you. The point is, it just wants a home. Just like any parasitic entity, it wants a home. Just like us, humans. We have become a parasite on this planet because we're kind of abusing it, okay? So a host is a host and a parasite is a parasite. They have the same mechanic. They need an environment to live in, and that environment happens to be another entity. Now, we are living on the planet, okay, but we are theoretically living in the planet as well because we're living in its consciousness. We're influencing the consciousness of this planet, okay? We are somewhat like parasites because we are no longer hosts, okay? We are no longer, just like normal cells. As a race, we are kind of become like cancerous cells because we have turned against ourselves and we have turned against nature, because that's what cancer is actually all about. A part of you, not necessarily a physical one, turns against you. So when you hate yourself, when you manifest anger against yourself, that is also a form of cancer. And yes, it can actually materialize into a physical cancer, but it needs a lot of trauma in time, depending on whether you actually chose to manifest that cancer, okay? And cancer has a lot of reasons why it would be triggered. Usually it has something based around I feel worthless, I'm not worthy of living, okay? This is one of the triggers. And as people, we're kind of taught that literally everything you will do will never please people, because you will never please miserable people. If you're surrounded by miserable people, stop pleasing them, okay? Like, sure, you can still keep pleasing them if you want, but I can bet you on whatever you want that you will never please those people. They might fake it because it's a tactic to keep you close so that you give them more supply, okay? But I'm telling you, they will never be pleased, okay? So this coronavirus is a reminder of this. I probably will drop other videos on this. So I would say a firm salute to all the people who chose to perish to this virus so that they pay some of the karmic debt of humanity. I bring them a great salute. I'm sending positivity to all the medical stuff everywhere around the world, that they're putting all the hard work. And also the coronavirus is a reminder, a powerful reminder to you, to every one of you, that you are actually the 98% that constitute a society, and you should remind the authorities that, hey, they have to serve you, not you serve them. Okay, all these quarantines and stuff, there have been countries that have said, hey, stop it with the quarantine, because it's not going to do like literally anything. Okay, it's not going to solve anything. The only good thing about this is that there are cases going on beyond the scenes, and the last thing that those things need would be uprisings, revolutions. The change that the coronavirus needs to bring to the planet definitely does not need more revolutions, okay, like the ones happening in France and in other parts of the world. Well, that happened in France and other parts of the world. Okay, people need to be indoors, because when you have the masses put outside, the ones who rule the world and don't necessarily want the good thing for it, they can easily bring out those opinion shapers, or I don't know how you call them. So based on this, it's much better if people are put inside their homes. Okay, so the forces that will deal with these so-called occultists, okay, these dark forces, okay, the so-called archons, these forces can actually deal with these negative ones, so to speak, in an easier way. Okay, if you're not realizing that this is a spiritual warfare led to a whole different level now through the coronavirus, well, I think you should definitely become more and more introspective. That's the only thing that I would recommend you for now. Now, I would say this video has come a bit long, so until next time, remember, you are loved and appreciated. Do become more introspective. There's so much more time to meditate, to meet your spirit guides, to start taking more care about yourself, to start loving yourself more and the people that you hold dear, the people who are close to you. And take more care of yourself, eat healthier, get out in nature as much as you can, and enjoy life more and more. Okay, all of this will come to an end. Everything is represented by the quote, "These too shall pass." Okay, so until next time, Ferengian Board signing out.